Good evening. It is 6:30, Monday, August 3rd, 2020. This is the Kearney Board of Aldermen meeting. Call the meeting to order. You can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Shirley, have you had a chance to take roll?
I have taken roll. Everybody is present. You have the floor.
All right, thank you. Board, you'll see in front of you is the consent agenda. I do request that item C2, the warrant bills presented for payment, be moved to old business for consideration. The reason for that request is I want to discuss my item 3A, the CARE Small Business Grant, before we would pass the bills, in hopes that if the recommendation is passed, that we could issue those payments tomorrow. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we remove C2 and move to old business.
I second that.
Right, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay. Any other questions on the consent agenda?
I would like to say I am pleased about C4. I live in a neighborhood that, yes, we hear it, but we don't hear it well. So this will really help amplify the sound in that area.
Yeah, thank you for your input there, Alderman Spencer. I was contacted actually by a resident off 18th and Lauren Lane and had a good discussion with her, and Chief Kevin Pratt and our administrator, Jim Eldridge, have already been in doing some work and had that ready to go. So always important to make those necessary upgrades.
Definitely, money spent on safety is good money spent.
If there's no other questions or discussions, can we entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda? So moved.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? All right, we'll move on to Mayor's remarks. We'll start this evening with the CARES Act Small Business Grants. We did have 25 applicants. We do have, I believe, Julie Lewis of the Clay County Economic Development Council with us this evening. The Clay County Economic Development Council processed 25 Kearney small business applications for the $5,000 grants that were appropriated by the Board of Aldermen. It is recommended that we fund all applications, which will require an increased budget in the amount of $131,250, which is $125,000 for the grants and $6,250 for the Clay County EDC assistance. I'd like to again thank TJ Berry, Julie Lewis, Shauna Searcy, and everybody who helped with this process. I believe we have Julie from the Clay County Economic Development Council joining us by Zoom this evening, and we'll be able to answer any questions from the board. We do, after questions and discussion, we do have a proposed resolution approving the grant recipient payments attached. That being said, I'd like to turn it over to Julie. Do you have anything to add to that from the Clay County EDC?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Any questions or discussion from the board?
I think this is an amazing program. I was contacted by a couple of these people, and I did put them in contact with Shauna and Julie, and this is wonderful, and I am so glad so many of our businesses are taking advantage of it.
All right, if there's no other questions or discussion from the board, could you read the resolution, Jim?
A resolution authorizing the city to award CARE small business grants.
I'd like to make a motion to approve on first reading.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose?
And only one reading is necessary.
One reading is necessary, all right. Well, that's, I appreciate the board's consideration of passing it, let alone with the increase. That's $125,000 that we're putting back instantly into our local economy, and, with all 25 applicants being recommended funding, it's apparent that, it was needed, so thank you for that. We'll move on to item 3B. With us on, via Zoom, we have, Mr. David Fees. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He is the president and CEO of the Liberty Hospital. As the board is aware, Liberty Hospital did contact me via correspondence in asking for funding assistance for a negative pressure room for the coronavirus pandemic. Many of you may not realize that Liberty Hospital is actually a political subdivision organized pursuant to state statutes. Being a tax-supported public entity, it clearly gives them eligibility for CARES Act funds, providing the funds to spend on COVID-19 related expenses. We understand that the City of Liberty has appropriated and authorized up to $225,000 toward the project, and the City of Pleasant Valley has authorized $8,000. Recognizing the central role Liberty Hospital plays in serving Kearney's health needs, I'm recommending the city contribute up to $50,000 toward their project, which exceeds $293,000. After the board's questions have been addressed, I would recommend that we would approve the proposed resolution. David, do you have anything to add to that from Liberty Hospital?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council members. Again, I appreciate your time this evening to consider our request and also answer any questions you might have about our project. But essentially, what this would allow us to do is take our 20 beds of our 7th floor of our south tower to make those isolation rooms where effectively we're able to exhaust air directly outside from the patient room. So really what that does is provides an added level of protection to our patients, their families, and our staff. So this really enhances our ability to care for these patients that are hospitalized due to COVID-19. And currently we have about 13 rooms located throughout the hospital that are these negative pressure rooms, but these would add essentially a 20-bed floor dedicated, if need be, to patients that are having infectious disease issues that we're needing to exhaust the air outside. So it's just, again, an added level of protection, making sure that we're doing a good job caring for everybody in our community. So like the mayor indicated, we've approached not only the cities he's mentioned, but we've approached Kansas City, Missouri, as well as Gladstone. So we're working with other communities to receive the funding. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions any of you have.
Are there any questions from the board? If the board is curious how I deprived of the $50,000 number, based off of the letter that we received from David, their numbers show that roughly 8% of their emissions are from the City of Kearney residents. That would be roughly $24,000. I thought, the pandemic, if everything was spread, that, maybe up to double that amount would be appropriate. So that being said, just in case anybody was curious how I come up with that recommendation. If there are no other questions or discussion from the board, could we read by title only, please?
Actually, Mayor, can I
Sorry?
ask you?
Yes.
You said up to $50,000.
Correct.
What's going to determine that?
So it would
number?
be the lesser or of $50,000 or the difference in what they would need to be able to get their complete project cost. And if you, the agreement with the hospital and the municipalities aren't involved, if for some reason they would receive more than they need, then they would distribute those funds back to the city.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, reading by title only, a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding with the new Liberty Hospital District of Clay County, Missouri, Liberty Hospital, relative to the CARES Act funding.
Or can we entertain a motion?
So moved?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
One abstention. I don't want to be a conflict of interest.
Okay. Requires one reading, correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, that'd be a vote of 3-0 with one abstention.
Great, thank you.
Well, thank you
Next
very
item.
much. The hospital, our staff, our patients certainly appreciate the city of Kearney's support, and collectively all of you as leaders in our community. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We'll move on to item 3C under Mayor's remarks. I do just want to go on record and state that the last couple weeks I have received a small handful of anonymous letters. These letters are specifically in regards to fireworks on the 4th of July and being a nuisance. I did want to let everybody know that I always welcome any citizen feedback. I will always take your feedback and concerns with respect. As your mayor, I must be open and available to take those comments, but without the ability to make contact, it is hard for me to drill down any issues and help work out any issues. Please feel free to contact me anytime. I can assure you that I'll listen to you, dialogue with you, and will do my best to always find a solution and work with you. But if I don't know who you are, I simply don't have the ability to work with you or help you solve any issues if I don't know who to contact. And to follow up with that, the next item under Mayor's remarks, I do just want to let everybody know that this time last year I started my first series of meetings with the mayor. I really enjoyed those meetings. I'll be scheduling more of those meetings later on this year. Once again, no agenda, just an opportunity for you to meet with your mayor. Let me hear what's on your what's on your mind, hear your thoughts, and like we did last year, the sessions will be scattered out from early morning to evening to make sure everybody has an opportunity to attend. Also this year you'll have the opportunity to attend via Zoom if you choose to do so. With that concludes the mayor's remarks, and we'll move on to the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have, at the request of our board, invited Joanne Yen of MoDOT. She's a project manager for the I-35 interchange project. And I know that I saw Mark Fisher, who is our new area engineer, on our list, and maybe Shelley, but I didn't see her for sure.
I don't see.
Anyway, we have those people, and we have John Zimmerman and Doug Park from Trans Systems. We maybe hear from Joanne first if she'd like to make some comments. Also, relative to the project, like I say, we've invited John to also explain the designing progress of the city's Nation Road roundabout, which we have to pay 100% of. And he is also assisting us in overall expenses and revenues projections, and expense projections to assist in mapping out the cash flow of the project. And I was wanting to speak on that. And John, I can put this on a screen share. You could share yours, but I can share mine when you get to that point. So I didn't have a pre-meeting with you guys to decide who was going to go first or what was wanting to say, but possibly we could get our project engineer from MoDOT just to say hi and see her face and assure them that it's on target and what does on target mean, and also then maybe John and Doug can come in and supporting that explanation. Does that sound okay? Joanne, you want to do that?
Yes. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jim, and the city board give us the opportunity to give some update on the project schedule and progress. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you good, and we can see you good when we have it in speaker view on our big screen,
Okay.
so it's good.
Okay, first of all, the project schedule. This project is scheduled for November 2020 letting, and notice proceed will be February 1st, 2021. Based on the workday study, this project will take about 2 construction seasons to finish. We reviewed the final plans already, looks good. The plans are ready for August PSE. Another update for the right-of-way acquisition. We acquired 2 parcels. 3 other offers were made last week. And the rest 2 offers will be made on this coming Wednesday. So hopefully there is agreement will be reached soon. The project will be moved forward. As for the utilities, except the gas company, they don't need utility easement. All other utility companies are waiting for utility easement to be acquired before they can either start their construction or put out the bid for construction. I think that's all I have for the project progress. John and Doug, do you guys have something to add?
Yeah, on the Nation Road roundabout, we are moving to the final plan stage. We've completed the right-of-way drawings, and now the city is working with the property owners to acquire easements. So that project will be completed in time to bid it so that it opens up at the same time as the interchange. So everything goes together and the connection is made. Jim, if you want to put the cost share table up, I'll walk you through that real quickly. This is the spreadsheet we've been using to track the cost on the project. It includes the interchange, and it includes the 19th Street and Nation Road roundabout. The 3 columns on the right, the first one is essentially the city's checkbook. That includes the 24 million that was agreed to by the voters. So that's shown, and as different expenses occur, that remaining balance drops. The middle columns are the MoDOT reimbursements. This is the 10 million cost shared funds, and it's just a column to show where those dollars get allocated to. The third set of columns is the MoDOT checkbook for the interchange. So again, it shows where money comes in and goes out for different expenses. You'll see on that third column, there are 4 or 5 entries that are in yellow. Those indicate that those costs are not set yet. We've tried to be conservative with those numbers. So the like the 2.2 million for utilities, that includes everything we know of to date. And it sounds like the utilities have pretty much agreed to the dollar amount. So we're feeling pretty good about those numbers in yellow, but again, they're still unknown. The one that really matters now is the 20.4 million. That's the bottom number on the MoDOT balance sheet. That is the engineer's current estimate for the interchange. And if you go back to the first column, the third green line is the construction deposit. That is the 17.7 million that the city agreed to deposit before the bid. And if the bids come in exactly at the 20.4 million, the city will have an additional 436,000 that they'll have to write a check for after the bid. If the bids come in low, there won't be an additional charge. If they came in high, that would be an additional check over the 436,000. The thing I will point out to you is that the bid, where Jim's got the highlighter right now, the remaining balance shows 2.6 million. So basically you've got 2.6 million of cushion. After you scroll down a little bit further, the Nation Road roundabout, where that gets bid, again, your cushion at the bottom is 2.6 million. So what we're projecting at this point is after both of the projects are completed, you'll have about 2.6 million in funds that could go to other projects or could be closed out. The last thing I'll point out is because of the remaining balance after the bid, the Nation Road roundabout will probably have to be bid in August of next year. The plans will be ready. If the bids come in low on the interchange, or if any of those highlighted numbers come in significantly lower, that'll build enough cushion that we could bid the roundabout earlier. But regardless, if we bid it in August of next year, it opens the same time as the interchange. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or discussion from the board? I know it's been quite some time since the board's had an opportunity to hear from our partners with the interchange. So Juan, Joanne, and everybody, I appreciate you guys taking the time, John and David, to be here tonight.
I have a question.
Dan, go ahead.
John, in those numbers, was that including the fiber optic to be moved?
That included all of the utilities, the transmission poles, and the fiber optics. So that's a total cost for utilities.
Okay, I was making sure that the fiber optic got in there.
And I have told our finance people that we are on the November bid letting. Joanne, is that still the case? We are still tentatively set to bid in, to let bids in November?
That's what we are shooting for November letting right now. It will depend on the right-of-way acquisition. If everything goes well, yes, that's a schedule we shoot for. So if there's a chance, it's not easy to get a reach agreement with the property owners. They will meet with the city staff to discuss. But right now, November letting, that's what we're looking for.
I believe that's what you said at the beginning of the report too. This is November 2020 letting.
Mm-hmm.
How much time do you need to know, Jim? How much?
Well, we've got to move now. Tonight is the night we're coming to you with the go-to-market resolution. I don't know that there's harm in delaying a few months. If we've gone ahead and had our bond issue, we've got our money in the bank, and we'll make our transfer when we need to. In the meantime, it'll be reinvested and earn some interest to hedge against it. As long as we're doing it, there's rules on that. But I'm glad Sid Douglas is with us, and Todd Goffey of Piper Jaffray and Megan Miller of Gilmore and Bell, so they can hear that we are not 100% certain everything's going to go okay, but we are confident that it's going to go. I mean, tonight we are.
Our contingency continues to shrink a little bit, but yeah, it's a good report. So appreciate that. Jim, what else do you have under administrator's report?
Okay, thank you guys, with MoDOT for joining us, and, we're gonna move right into, talking to our finance people about, the commencement of all the process with a general obligation bond. We will have money, in October, so we can make our deposit. So that's what we're moving forward on, tonight. So, Mr. Mayor, we do have Todd Goffey, that can, explain the, financing schedule. He is with Piper Sandler, used to be called Piper Jaffray. He is on here to talk about that, and our city's, our bond counsel, Sid Douglas, I believe, is on here. If not, Megan Miller, I did see her. So, they can explain the go-to-market resolution that's enclosed in the agenda packet. So I invite Todd to, take the floor and explain the process. And again, Todd, I could share, that schedule with them if you want me to do that, but I think you have screen share capability as well.
Yeah, that might be, thank you, Jim, and good evening, Mayor and Board. Todd Goffey with Piper Sandler. You might, Jim, go ahead and share the timetable that we can talk from. And then after that, once we talk about the timetable and the plan of finance, then we can have Sid and Megan speak to tonight's action on the go-to-market resolution. But, you know, roughly it's about a 60-day process. And so the first action really is what we call a go-to-market resolution that puts everybody on notice to continue moving forward with the issuance of the bonds. And then we kind of going all the way to the bottom of the timetable, really what's driving this is trying to have bond proceeds available by October 1st. And if it looks like you're not going to have to make a deposit to MoDOT right on October 1st, we've got leeway in this schedule to where perhaps we could maybe delay the closing a little bit and maybe get it closer to the middle of October or something. But what we'll be doing along with the Gilmore and Bell folks here in the coming weeks, as the bond documents are prepared, we'll begin the bond rating process with Moody's, get a rating established, and then we would come back to the board with a parameters ordinance at that September 8th meeting. And I guess, Jim, I wanted to confirm that too, because the 7th is Labor Day, so I just kind of assumed that the board meeting would be that next day on Tuesday the 8th.
I haven't spoken to the board, but that is what we have calendared as well.
Okay, well, we'll make whatever, meeting date is agreed to, we'll make that date work. And then we've got a little bit of flexibility. That schedule shows a competitive bond sale on September 15th. But if we need to push that back a week or two, that is certainly not a problem to do. So we'll be kind of monitoring the MoDOT timetable here this month and see if we need to make any adjustments on timetable.
Well, you brought in a good interest rate for us on our COPs refinancing, so we had good fortune there, and I hope that continues.
Yeah, the market has been strong. It continues to be strong. So we have our fingers crossed that that will last here for another month to 45 days, and we'll have maybe an equally good result for the GO bonds. I think currently we think it's probably going to be around 2% for a 20-year financing. And as Sid and Megan may go over on the go-to-market resolution, the voters did approve the 24.3 million. Some of the bonds were issued back in 2018. And so what is left from the remaining authorization is 20,800,000. So that's what we would be moving forward with.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, and I have both you and Sid on the same line item. So, I will move to the resolution and see if, we have Megan or, Sid that would want to speak to that.
Jim, this is Sid Douglas with Gilmore and Bell, and I'll be happy to provide some comments on the resolution. The idea of the resolution is just authorizes the city representatives and Piper Sandler and Gilmore and Bell to begin working on the financing documents. It does not commit the city to any particular schedule. It doesn't commit you to even do the financing. You have the opportunity to make those decisions at a subsequent time. It's just authorizing us to proceed forward to prepare the documents with the expectation that eventually we'll be bringing a financing to the board for its approval.
Mr. Mayor, I'd ask the board that we approve this on a resolution by title.
Read by title only, please.
A resolution authorizing the offering for sale of general obligation bonds for the benefit of the city of Kearney, Missouri.
Make a motion to approve.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have, under my report, and I want to thank you, Todd and Sid and Megan, for joining us. Appreciate the MoDOT folks joining us, and we can let you go if you want to go on about your day or your evening. Appreciate it, Doug and John, also. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And,
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
and Mark, we look forward to meeting you sometime. Kicked off.
Yeah.
Gotta go.
Well, getting to town. Mark has been a long-time project engineer for MoDOT. He actually worked on he was project engineer for 33 highway widening. So he's kind of, he's been with MoDOT for a long time, and he knows Kearney well. Mr. Mayor, we have Steve Casey and Larry Reynolds of Vireo. Steve Casey is our project engineer for SC Planning and Design, who helped develop our master plan for Lions Park. And I think we'll probably ask Steve Casey to open up the discussion and then introduce Larry Reynolds of Vireo, who can give a detailed presentation of the proposed 2021 Lions Park improvements with the recommended project schedule, and both are attending by Zoom. So,
Thank you. Before I give Mr. Casey the floor, I will just like to say I noticed that some of our park board members are on as well this evening, so I greatly appreciate all the park board's work on this project. When I was an alderman myself, I was on the beginning conversations and meetings of this project, so I'm extremely proud of what we have put together here. And once again, I appreciate our Parks Board, our Eric and Ryan, and everybody that's put in the time to get it this far. With that, Steve, you got the floor, sir.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you just fine.
Mayor, Board of Aldermen, Park Board, Mr. Eldridge, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. I thought I would take just a few minutes because I was kind of looking through my notes and calendar and kind of backtracking a little bit. It'd been, I think, October of 2018 when we made a presentation to the Board of Aldermen regarding a master plan for the park, and it's kind of started the wheels in motion, creating kind of a vision for the renovations. And we had a very strong committee working on the project. It was made up of some members of the Kearney and Richmond Council, some city staff, Parks and Rec, of course, Eric and Ryan and Jim, Mayor Holt and Mayor Pogue were involved in a lot of those early meetings to go through the process. So I think that the outcome of that has kind of put us where we are at this point. I think we've got a good project moving forward. And I've got Larry Reynolds here with Vireo. We brought Vireo and Larry into the project back early in 2020. It was late 2019 when we selected consultant. And I'll say this about Vireo. I've worked with them on a number of occasions. They're a very highly reputable firm. We're excited to have them part of the team. And I think you'll see with some of the slide presentation that we've got a good direction going forward. We've got, I've worked with Vireo quite a bit. They're very adept in trails and park planning, and land planning. And so we've got a good consultant team and engineers assisting us with the project. We've got a slide presentation. I don't know the best way to pull that up.
I've got it ready to go. If I can share my screen, and I'll just kind of plug through, and Steve, you go
Sure.
for it, and I'll chime in.
Sure. Let me just start out with, if you want to open that presentation board, those slides, we can kind of zip through them. We can pull up the master plan, which I'm sure some of you have seen at some point. We've kind of polished some things up a little bit, and as we've gone through the engineering process, some of this is tightened up a little bit. But what you'll see is essentially, pretty much the same scope of improvements that we had back in late 2018 that we presented. Obviously, where this project kind of started was the origins of it were to introduce some aquatics, and there was some discussion amongst some of the community folks that they wanted to do a splash pad. And we've got, I know Larry has got some experience with that. I've got some experience with it. My day job is I work for the City of Lee Summit Parks and Recreation as a superintendent of park planning and construction. And so but I also do some consulting, and I've gotten quite a bit of experience with splash pads. We went through a process with the two big components of the project, which were the playground and the splash pad. We went through a request for proposals, and we put that out for kind of, I'd call that kind of a modified bid process, where it was open for bidding, but we also wanted to qualify these contractors that have, with the specialized nature of both aspects of the project. We wanted to make sure we were selecting a consultant and a contractor and getting a design that we wanted that fit the budget, fit the site. Some of the slides here that, if Larry can move through them, will kind of outline the direction we are going with both the playground and the splash pad. We were very pleased when we went through this RFP process on both the splash pad and the playground, the high level of response and the creative level of response. And what we did was, much in the same way, we had a committee that worked on the master plan. We also had a committee of park staff and myself and Larry reviewing the proposals. And we went through a scoring process on all of these. And we had selected Park Planet, which you can see some of the playground equipment here that will fit into the site plan that you saw on the previous slide. So we've got some interesting components here that will be part of the project.
Steve, real quick,
Yes.
we also had Kurt Hamilton with down at the old firehouse involved in this process as well.
Yes, correct. Here's some slides of the playground that was selected. Now, one thing I should point out is that these will be, both the playground and the splash pad will be turnkey projects. In other words, we will be hiring, as part of the RFP, we will be bringing in the contractor, specialized contractor, to do the work, these pieces of the project. And then we will have a separate bid for the site improvements. So there'll be some coordination between both the splash pad contractor, the playground contractor, and the general contractor who's making the site improvements. I think that's the last slide. You might jump to the splash pad. I'll touch on this very briefly. kind of gave some overview of this last time we presented, excuse me, to the Board of Aldermen. This will be a flow-through system, so there is no recirculating component. It runs off of the city water and basically flows through, so it's a potable water. It's not treated, but you can see kind of the features that will be included in the splash pad. This was designed by a firm. The company is Vortex. The firm that we worked with that prepared the plan was out of Tulsa, and the contractor is out of Arkansas, who I've worked with personally quite a few times and feel very good about their capabilities of performing the work. But it is splash pads are unique features. You can see some of the pictures. You've got an action bay, a family bay, and a toddler bay. So there's some separation of play areas. I'm going to turn some of this over to Larry, and we're going to kind of jump back and forth. Larry's going to talk about some of the site improvements, and then I will talk about the schedule, the projected schedule going forward, and he will touch a little bit on the cost.
Thanks, Steve. So one of the other proposed items in here is a new restroom, and I will jump back to show you where that is on our site plan. So we just talked about the playground and the splash pad. The proposed restroom that would come in here, this is a prefabricated all concrete restroom. It is delivered on the back of an 18-wheel truck and then boomed into place with a crane. The contractor prepares the sub base and stubs utilities, and then they drop it in right on top. So here's an example of kind of the color scheme, keeping with some just earth tones, neutral colors. Again, it's all concrete, but we would like to dress it up a little bit and use some native stone along the bottom here. And this will connect to some other items that we're using stone in throughout the park. So here's kind of an example, though, of how the manufacturer can provide that as well. So this is just another example of picture of them bringing that in. This is the exact model that we've specified. It's a two stalls. They're both unisex and ADA accessible. We've also proposed a couple of picnic shelters and updated band shell. The band shell replacing the existing one, kind of at the north or southwest corner here. And then two picnic shelters centrally located between the playground and splash pad. And those look like this. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about the shelter here? There's going to be a medallion and a sign on there, I believe, that says Lions Park.
Right. What I think we heard early on is that in looking at the development of the park, we wanted it to be maintenance friendly. So rather than going back with a wooden structure or something along those lines, it would require maybe a higher level of maintenance and repair. We thought that we could create, and there's a lot of companies that manufacture these kind of prefabricated park shelters. And this is one that I have a little bit of experience with that we've used in some of our parks. In Lee Summit, it kind of has a clear story roof, 2-level roof. It's all metal, but it's got a tongue and groove undercarriage underneath underneath the metal ribbed roof. And I think the medallion with the arching letters is kind of a nice touch. Gives some identity to the park, but is very maintenance friendly. And we'll be equipped with power, so we will have outlets on the columns that will allow for hookup. But these are kind of an example of the shelter that we're proposing on this site. And dimensions of these are roughly 24 by 28, so you can get anywhere from probably 6 to 8 picnic tables. I think this will be just based on the location. Will be a great opportunity to do rentals, family reunions, gatherings, just because of the activities that we'll have in the park. So.
This is the new park monument sign to replace the existing one there at the corner of 2nd Street and Jefferson, sorry. So this would be actually on an arc, a curved wall, native stone, an ashlar pattern. The stone would be cream or buff colored. Some examples down below of that, what we've looked at. And then in the center would be Lions Memorial Park pinned letters, black. So then again, this is the stone that would be connecting to some of the other features in the park that we talked about, like the restroom. There's a number of existing artifacts on the site now that we want to make sure that we reincorporate into all of the improvements. One of them is the granite memorial plaque from the Lions Club. The other is a sundial, and there's also a granite plaque quote from Ned Bailey that will incorporate all of these into the new design as well.
Wanted to talk a little bit about schedule. What we've and let me back up to for a minute. I think when we completed the process with the master plan and going through that planning process and presenting that to the board, we followed up with an application, a grant application that is federal dollars and administered by the State Department of Natural Resources. We applied for that grant back in December of 18, and we found out, well, we completed the application in February of 19, it was due. Went through an extensive review process. I think by the summer of last year, I think we'd gotten some positive feedback that our application was pretty well received, and then did get official notification. So we have matching funds of the amount of $250,000 that will go to this project. So that will certainly help out in terms of the financial aspects of this project, which we'll kind of go through some of the cost here in a minute. But I do want to hit on a couple high notes as we are approaching sort of a point where we want to move this forward for bidding and to start the construction process based on where we stand right now here in early August. Obviously the pandemic kind of put the brakes on the project back in March, which in some respects put us in a little better position to pull all the, I think at one time we were maybe trying to work on an accelerated track to try to get some of these improvements open, specifically the splash pad here as early as maybe this month or August. That would have been very difficult to achieve. So the pandemic kind of gave us an opportunity to work through the final design documents at a more consistent pace, I think. So we'd worked on that through April, May, June. We didn't really necessarily put the brakes on the design, but pushed the construction schedule back to what I'm showing here on this schedule is probably going through a bid phase here over the next 6 to 8 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And then as part of the grant application, we will need to share the results of those bids with the grant management section with the state, their approval. And the intent would be, at least with this timeline anyway, to perhaps start construction in October, which would be, in most cases, a pretty ideal construction window. Allow us to get some of the site work done yet this fall and early winter. The site work, utilities, the restroom construction, which, as Larry mentioned, that's a prefabricated structure. The same with the shelters. And then in the spring, early spring, complete the work on the playground and the splash pad, because there'll be some lead time that we will need to account for equipment delivery and things like that. And so we will account for that as part of this schedule, which would be probably looking at something in the spring, and then opening if everything goes according to plan and schedule, and probably open sometime in May with the opening of the splash pad, which would be a good window to get. Have an overview of the schedule as it stands right now.
Overall costs, we're looking at just under 1.2 million, with our base bid being site improvements at just under 400,000, playground and splash pad at about 500,000, the restroom 73,000, and the 2 picnic shelters 97,000. We've included the monument sign and the band shell as alternates at the moment. So as Steve mentioned earlier, sorry?
Larry, is that alternate one, that monument sign, is that the one that is a price difference?
No, these are the updated figures.
Okay, perfect.
Appreciate it. As Steve mentioned, on the playground and splash pad were both RFPs that went out, and we provided a specific allowance for that. Was it 200 for the playground and 300 for the splash pad? So everybody who bid on it was bidding to the same amount. So what you're seeing in here above that is the additional utilities and drainage that is included to support the splash pad. So I feel like we kind of went through and didn't spend enough time on the site plan overall to see everything that was on there. So if anybody has any questions overall of what's in the new plan, feel free to speak out.
I think,
Steve,
Larry, it's also worth
Larry,
noting that we're increasing the parking, the perimeter parking,
right,
significantly. And a point of reference also, as it relates to 2nd Street, we are going to work with the city on converting that to a one-way traffic pattern, which will allow for angled pull in and back out parking without any interference to traffic. So that is all additional parking along there. And some additional parking on the northwest corner that he's highlighted right there.
Right, and then we're improving the striping for the existing parking here.
Steve and Larry, if you wouldn't mind, this is Ryan. If you wouldn't mind explaining the Dry Creek bed to the board, right, so they can understand that.
Absolutely. So the Dry Creek bed here is providing drainage, this flow-through drainage in the splash pad, and also provides some water quality and dissipates energy as it goes into the creek here. So that's the purpose here. So we wanted to dress that up a little bit. It'll be cobbles throughout the creek bed with some large boulders and plantings, kind of situated alongside there. We are removing some trees throughout the site, so we'll be replacing those with new trees to provide shade in the future. The splash pad, as we've talked about, improved here. We'll also have some shade structures on either side of these. These are kind of a cantilevered, what do you call it, sail shade kind of structure.
And Larry, do you want to kind of show where the sundial and the monument stones and the bench supposed to go?
So that we've relocated the sundial to be right here at this sort of nexus between the splash pad and the more central area of the site. So as you approach, it'd be right here with the memorial bench and plaque right here, right next to it. And then up closer to the restroom, we also have a new drinking fountain that will have a bottle filler, a dog bowl, and it'll be an ADA accessible drinking fountain. And so right in front of that would be the Ned Bailey quote, similar to how it is now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the playground, we've got some benches that we've proposed along the side for seating. We've got to take up some grade, so we have a small modular wall on the back side that will take up grade, but also provide a low seat wall for additional seating. And the idea here was to kind of create this loop sort of trail throughout. On the west side of the creek is an asphalt trail that's 8 feet wide. It narrows down at the bridge crossing, but you could make this loop as you're watching kids in the splash pad or at the playground.
You want to tell them about that, the monument? I know you touched on it briefly, is down in the corner, right?
So the monument sign, new monument sign will be right down here. Let's see if I can get a better, right at the corner of Jefferson and 2nd Street. So it's this arced figure right here. Around the splash pad will be a decorative fence, kind of keep people in and keep kids from going out towards the street. All of this will be essentially at grade accessible throughout here. It's fairly flat. So we've had to, in order to do so, cut into the grade right through here.
Hey, Eric, where are we going to put the event banners?
That's a good question, Dan. We haven't really thought about event banners. I do know if we have hung those on the existing sign, how we have.
Eric, I would actually propose that we could hang those along the fence there.
On the fence?
Yeah, on the decorative fence that goes around the splash pad there. So you'll be able to see it from Jefferson Street pretty well.
That way, when we have the concerts in the park, or if they continue to do theater there or whatever, it'd be very visible, that's for sure.
I know too that, if you're out there now, all of this area is all asphalt pavement, and we'll be replacing that with turf, lawn, green space, creates more green space. We'll also provide an exit egress area for the building there.
Right. Larry and Steve, appreciate the presentation. At this time, I'd like to give the board an opportunity to ask any questions or provide any comments or feedback. Is there anything from the board?
I have a few comments and questions. As far as the playground goes, I think this whole project is amazing. I was there when Jenny Hayes first presented it in September of 2017. So we will be on a real timeline here. But the playground part with our town and our history being centered around the trains, etc., all of the banners on our main street, if you see those, they also have trains and old cars and horses. I noticed that your two spring items, one was a horse and the other was an airplane. I would like to toss into, for consideration, that it is perhaps a horse and a train because of the history of our town and to keep things cohesive. Or the other option that I thought would be wonderful, since this is Lions Park, would be to have a pair of lions. But I thought it would be nice if these were more pertinent to our town rather than just two pieces you had chosen. And when we discussed the splash pad, I have always been a big proponent of more seating, more shade. As a grandparent myself with 5 granddaughters, I have spent many hours around splash pads, and both of those are key components. Your original artist rendering that we had showed more benches around the splash pad. I would like to see on that west side where your new drawing shows one bench, I would like to see at least 2 go in there. The same around the playground. I just think that seating is critical for parents, for grandparents. It makes your experience nicer if you have that spot to sit down and take a break for a few minutes. And last but not least, the band shell. I do not know if the band shell will actually happen immediately or if it is a down the road project, but I have spoken with several people recently, and as Dan asked, and about the banners, and that it is because we do community theater, we do band concerts. Your typical band shell is all about the acoustics and the sound quality for the audience. The sound propagation is carried out by reverberations that when they are inside that shell and they hit that back wall and the front arch, they're directed towards the spectators. It helps make the quality of the sound much better. So I would like to see one portion of that back. It has 3 sections. I would like to see one of those 3 sections have a solid piece to it for reverberation and to get a bit of that sound quality so that whether it is our local band or community theater, those types of things, that sound will project out towards the audience. I'd like to see us do this once and do it right. So that is all of my comments. And thank you very much for listening.
Are there any other?
Thank you.
Hi, this is Marion Hood. I'm representing the Lions Club, and I have a question. Hello. As far as the playground goes, are there any Yes.
At this, I'll give you an opportunity to speak here in a moment. If I could give the rest of the board an opportunity to ask questions or share their thoughts, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else from the board?
I do kind of agree with Jerry about the sound. And my whole thing was also just from the way that they do plays out there. I don't know. This is showing that the band shell is round. I don't know if it needs to be, rectangular. But yeah, I do think the back needs to be some kind of where the sound can go out front. I think that when it gets to the time to doing the band shell, maybe we need to revisit that a little bit. I think what they're proposing is pretty, but for how we actually use that, it's going to be a little different. Because right now, if you've ever been there for a play, they go from side to side, and it's rectangular. That was only my suggestion, was maybe change it from being round to being rectangular.
I do have one question. What is the surface of the playground, and is that going to be ADA compatible?
Well, the playground surface will be mulch, engineered wood fiber, and that does meet ADA guidelines.
What happens to the old playground equipment? Is that going to be used somewhere else, or?
Good question.
So, Eric, conversation we've had is to possibly repurpose the way outdated and equipment at Mac Porter Park. Eric, do you want to talk on that?
That's so correct, Mayor. That's what we would like to do is pull some of those pieces and transport those out to Mac Porter Park, where we could get rid of the old equipment there. All of our playgrounds are the engineered wood fiber mulch. We originally wanted to get the pour in place surfacing. It was just astronomical, and it put us way out of the budget where it wasn't feasible. And the wood fiber works. It's ADA accessible, and we've had good luck with it in our playgrounds that we have right now, in all three of them. But that's the plan, is to take some of that playground equipment out there to Mac Porter Park.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Marion, did you have a comment to make?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. As far as the playground is concerned, are there any, or will there be any playground equipment that will be handicap accessible?
Yeah, so what we're in the process of doing with our playground consultant that put this proposal in front of us is to give us an ADA, let's call it an audit, but not all the equipment is entirely ADA accessible, but a good portion of it is. And so what we like to do in these cases is, when they come up with a proposal, they come back to us with an audit explaining what pieces of the equipment are accessible and how many of them. So I would point out that the swings will be ADA accessible. Some of the ground level play will meet ADA guidelines, and some of the elevated platforms, provided there's a transfer point, which most of them do, the elevated features will provide some level of accessibility. And then some of the ground level panels, as you can see in some of these slides, also provide a level of ADA accessibility also.
Okay.
Steve,
if
I may add, if you go back to the swing set photo, I know there was an earlier comment about having, trains or more Lions or history of Kearney involved. We've already talked with our park planet about getting rid of this. Kind of looks like a grind rail at a skate park, but we said we'd like to replace that with more spring rider equipment as well. And it would be a wash in cost. So I just wanted to mention that real quick.
One of our, I'm sorry, one of the other questions, at the corner of Second and Jefferson, at the entrance of the park, there are some concrete lions that were donated. Are those going to be incorporated? Those were donated by longtime Lion members.
Yes, they will. We haven't determined the final spot for them, but certainly.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board? Any other items for discussion? Mr. Casey, Mr. Reynolds, do you have anything else to add based off of any of the comments or feedback from the board?
No, I think those were all good comments, and we will try to address, and Eric touched on the making some potential substitutions on the playground. I would point out on the splash pad, I think there was a question that came up regarding seating. There is actually 3 benches around the splash pad. And then a fair amount of seating also underneath those 2 shade canopies, which are 12 by, dimensionally, those are 12 by 24. So there's an opportunity to get a lot of picnic tables and seating, shade seating under those. And then also the landscaping, well, not right away. I think once that matures, will provide a lot of shade around the splash pad. So, and then there's also the possibility if the more seating needs to be added as we look at the use and activity in the park, we can also look to add some seating later on. And that goes for the playground as well. So we appreciate all those comments. They're all very productive and useful for us as we get towards finding some of this plan and getting it towards ready to put out on the street for bid.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and I appreciate keeping the heritage and the history of our Lions Park. All those the sundial and the quotes and making sure that that's still part of our park. So I think you guys have put together a great plan. Anything else on that, Jim?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. We appreciate you, Larry and Steve, for taking a detailed approach on this, and we'll look for some sort of a report we can give back to the board to let them know that those comments have been reflected in the plans going forward. So thank you, guys. And
thank you, Jim.
Eric and Ryan.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
And I guess, Steve, if you've got Larry, if you can unshare your screen and give us back the, we'll put that plan away.
Certainly.
Jim, based off that, so at some point, though, I guess, and I'm not saying that tonight's we have to make any decisions, but based off of that feedback and update, we'll have to make a decision as a board when to officially push forward.
Right.
Do you anticipate when they could possibly have that information ready for us to consider?
I'll find that out in the near future and get that back to you. So it doesn't seem like there's too much here that's complicated. The bandstand might be a little bit more complicated on putting a sound projection behind it. So, but we'll look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, other than the fact that bulky item, I wanted to assure everyone is back on our calendar for October 19th through the 22nd, and it is falls on the residents' normal trash day. So we've got that word going out on our website, and starting in the next water bills, we'll send that out. But I wanted to make sure everybody understands that we have reverted back to the original plan that we've always had. And thank you very much.
Great. We have no public requests, no public petitions. We have no public hearing scheduled. Under old business, we did move down C2, the warrant bills presented for payment, down to old business. Sorry, did you have something? I'm sorry, I thought you were trying to get my attention. So if we could consider, if we could entertain a motion to present the warrant bills presented for payment as presented. Once again, the reason why I did ask that we move those down is it did include the payments to Liberty Hospital and our grant applicants. I wanted to be able to possible to get those funds turned over to them immediately.
I make a motion to approve the warrant bills presented for payment.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, warrant bills are approved. Thank you. We have no new business scheduled, which will move us to Alderman discussion. Alderman Spencer?
I would like to say that we are moving forward with the wayfinding. We have a meeting set up for the end of this week, and we'll let you know how it goes.
Thank you. Do you have anything further to discuss?
No, thank you.
Alderman Holt?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Alderman Lehman?
I'm good.
And Alderman Barger?
Actually, tonight, I have something. I want to thank Jim and the mayor for those two presentations that we had tonight. I think it's important to keep the public informed. I know I started hearing people saying that nothing was happening on the interchange, nothing's happening with the splash pad, we're not going to get a splash pad. And so it's good to hear that everything is moving forward, and so I appreciate us trying to keep the public involved. I would also encourage the public to use the city's website when they're looking for information. That's where you're going to find the most accurate information. And so start there when you're looking for what's going on in the city.
Yeah, great message. Thank you for that. Only other thing I have is remind everybody that tomorrow is an opportunity to get out and vote. So no matter who you're going to support, please get out and exercise your right to vote. With that, ending the Alderman discussion, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks.